Hi, my name is Dan Zeilinger, and I have been a world-traveling trad jazz musician for the past 40 years. Some of my most memorable performances were on the lawn of the Edinburgh Castle, at Imperial Palace in Japan, as well as TV shows and commercials around the world. I've met many people during my career, and have spent many hours on stage on and off with these musicians talking about jazz, life, and more. Some are touring musicians, some are theme park warriors, and some are casual musicians who play on weekends with their friends. I think they all have stories worthy of a movie script. And through these interviews, I'll be sharing them with you. Hi there, this is Dan Zeilinger with Trad Jazz Today. My next guest is somebody who spent some time in hotel rooms and stages across the country and across the world, I think. Did you do some of those international trips?
Some of the international too.
Mr. Bob Sakoi. Hey, guy. Which international trips are you
on? Mostly with 10th Avenue over into the UK, Russia.
Okay,
Finland.
So you did the Russia trip right after I quit.
It must have been.
With my best friend. My best friend was Mike Alarcon, drummer that went.
Oh yeah.
And I gave him the gig, and then I quit the band. So anyway, this is Bob here. He's a great trumpet player and cornet player, and I didn't even know he owned a double bell euphonium.
No, I don't.
I guess when you play with that band, you kind of do.
I just touch it at the gigs.
Now, have you ever played that mouthpiece before, that tenor mouthpiece?
When I was in college, I actually was a trombone player in the concert band because I just wanted something different than trumpet.
Sure.
And, yeah, and then I played in Mexican bands on the radio 5 nights a week, and I played trumpet and trombone.
Wow, I did the similar thing with my Cuban bands that I was playing probably at the same time. I was doubling trumpet and trombone. You have those 3 trombone salsa bands at the time that were really popular. So yeah, we all got stuck doing that, I guess. Well, listen, okay, let's do, have you seen any of my interviews yet?
I actually looked for them this morning. I couldn't find them. I saw some of you playing.
Oh, no, that's okay. That's my Daniel E. Zeilinger site.
Okay.
Then that's got 10th Avenue and Misbehave and a bunch of that stuff on it.
Right.
And current bands. But the site that this airs on is called Trad Jazz Today.
Okay.
Trad Jazz Today for all of you out there. And it's another YouTube channel. I've got about close to 30 or 35 interviews now. I started in March, and I just started going through my memory of everybody I've played with, and kind of wanted to get it archived. These personalities and these people and the great talent. It's really funny who's ended up in my memory banks that have come up that have played trad. But you can check that out when you check out the channel.
I know you interviewed Jim Mahak about a week or so ago, maybe a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
Thanks to Wendy being an intermediary for me. I actually, because I kept trying to reach him through Facebook, and I wouldn't get any reply. So I finally got a hold of Wendy, and she said, "Oh no, he'd love to talk to you." I said, "Well, tell him to reply to my anyway." So that was fun, actually. That'll drop soon, in a while. And I've also interviewed David Johnson.
Oh.
And who else up there that you know? Bob
Williams.
Yeah, I interviewed Williams. And Bob Ringwald.
Yeah. Cool.
That you had a chance to play with. He's an interesting fellow, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Not that you're not, but so cool, man. Now, for those of you who are watching who don't know Bob or myself, we spent some time with 10th Avenue Jazz Band in hotel rooms and getting told what to do by Charlie Clark and all kinds of interesting things. And so he was a really good friend. He was with me through some really interesting times in my life. But I just have very fond memories of you, sir. In fact, you were the gentleman who introduced me to Masubi.
Oh.
I had never heard of it.
Yeah.
And one day we went by a place that you had frequented, I guess. And we picked up a bunch for a road trip, I think. I had never heard of it.
I don't recall that. Yeah.
Well, I recall everything except for changes. I can't remember changes to save my life. But I remember everything else that's not important. So
there you go. Well, food's important.
Okay, sir, where were you born?
San Francisco, California.
In the actual city of San Francisco.
Yes.
Wow. And okay, let's go through my questionnaire that I usually. Well, I don't have a questionnaire, but for example, where did you start playing trumpet? When did you start playing
When
any instrument?
I started playing trumpet at probably around fourth or fifth grade. We had moved to San Jose by then, and I was a weakly kid with asthma, and my parents thought that it would help. My cousin was a trumpet player, so I got his hand-me-down, an old special.
Hi. Okay, so you have been watching. Well, anyway, I had an Olds Ambassador, my first horn. The nice thing about those is they're indestructible, of course.
Yeah, actually, I still have a couple of the old LA ones, which are pretty nice horns.
Well, the Ambassador cornets are really sought after by the Dixieland guys.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the trick is when Zig was building the Olds, Zig Cancel. I don't know if you knew that. I met him when he was the FE Olds, and all of the quality was exactly the same from their pro horns to their beginning horns.
That's what I read too. The same tolerances, everything, just cheaper bracing and cheaper finishes.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're great horns. I can go into that for hours.
Yeah, that's a rabbit hole.
I never realized that. Well, what I never realized, we'll get to in a minute. Let me finish your history here. Junior high, who was your teacher?
Ted Tannehill, a tuba player in the San Jose Symphony.
Really? When did you start private lessons?
He actually gave us private lessons. And then when I went on to high school, our band director was Rocco DeStasio, who was a trumpet player in the Minneapolis Symphony and San Jose Symphony. And he gave every single kid that didn't have private lessons, he gave us individual lessons weekly. Yeah.
You can't be a classical player and be named Rocco. What's that about?
He looked like Toscanini, though, if you saw him.
Wow, that's really great. I didn't get into lessons at all until I got into college, actually. So good for you. That's pretty cool. And then you went to high school.
That was my high school teacher, Rocco.
Oh, that was your high school. Now,
yeah.
I remember from our times together that you were also a certain celebrity went to your high school with you. Wasn't Drew Carey a high school friend of yours?
No, he was a co-worker of my ex-wife over in Las Vegas.
Okay, I thought that you had actually gone to school with him.
No.
Oh, I'm getting
old. That was a little later.
Yeah.
But I met him.
Okay, then San Jose State, or where did you go to college?
After that, I went to De Anza College. 4 years at a junior college.
De Anza was a great jazz program.
Absolutely.
Nationwide known.
In my third year there, Dr. Patino got me hooked up with a full ride over at Northridge. And at the end of the summer, I went down there, me and a buddy, we looked for a housing, couldn't find it. And I just gave up and went back to De Anza for a fourth year. And my friend stayed down there and ended up finding an empty space and graduating, et cetera, et cetera. He wanted to play with Ray Charles, actually.
Wow. Bob Ringwald actually spent some time at Northridge doing a radio show out of that campus for a while.
Yeah, he's told us about some of that stuff he did. And his band down there, the Great Pacific.
Oh, yeah. That's how I met Ray Templin and a lot of those guys. In fact, yeah. You'll see a lot of your friends coming through this show, by the way. Like I said, I have about 35, well, maybe 40 interviews in the can now.
Wow.
And a lot of the people are friends of ours, obviously. Well, they're all friends of mine, but I don't know if they're going to put up with you. So your first Dixieland was, once again, and I'm proud alumni of theme parks.
That's right. Great America, 1976.
Okay, so which kind of puts me in the era that I didn't know about. I didn't realize you were a Claude Gordon student.
Yeah, I was a Claude Gordon student at the time.
So you did the walking and breathing and all that stuff. Huh?
5 steps in, 5 steps holding, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah,
that's great stuff.
It is.
So you've had 2 great teachers that I know of, and that's Claude Gordon and me. No, I'm kidding. But no, that a lot of the guys in Southern California were Claude Gordon students. Both Campbell brothers and a lot of guys.
Yeah.
I didn't. I took some lessons with Jimmy Stamp.
Oh, wow.
Not with Claude.
Yeah.
And Joan LaRue I took a 1 or 2 from, I think. But So yeah, so tell me about the theme park experience and how did you end up in that job?
Um, well, the theme park had several bands. They had a brass band. They were going to start a Dixie band. They had a marching band, two marching bands, and they had a pit orchestra, two pit orchestras, I believe, for different shifts. And so I went down there and tried out. I was rejected from all of them. And then I called the guy a day later and I said, well, do you have anybody for a Dixieland band? I'd like to do that. And he said, no. So he brought me in, and I only knew a couple songs, and I didn't really know how to improvise.
And what were the songs you could play?
Well, obviously, When the Saints Go Marching In, that's it. Maybe Bourbon Street Parade. So there were a bunch of great players in that band. Larry Martin, or Martinez, who worked at Disneyland, and with Fredfinn.
Yep.
Was there, and there was a tuba player that had been with some group up in Canada, and there was a clarinet player, Gary Milliken, and he actually wrote a fake book for me. And so every day we'd go into work, punch in, and he'd hand me two lead sheets, and we'd practice them. And then the minute we stepped in the park, we'd play those two songs in the beginning of the first set, and then we'd play other songs. And at the end of the set, we played the same two songs. So at the end of each day, I'd learn two new numbers. And that was the way it worked for the whole summer.
How did you wrap your head around improvisation at that time?
Well, I'd taken a little bit of improv at De Anza College, but obviously at the time I was there, I was mostly interested in higher, louder, and faster.
Weren't we all?
Yes.
In fact, I was talking to a couple of lead players in Southern California, maybe about 10 years ago now, actually. And they were lamenting the fact that era's gone, that younger up-and-coming guys aren't so much aren't as much Maynard fans. I mean, we still have guys like Wayne and stuff, and Rick Baptist and those guys who were doing it. But the mania that it was when we were kids,
yes,
coming up as trumpet players, everybody, almost refused to play below high C ever. And which is, well, of course, why I killed my face, if you remember, right? But,
sure. It's not without consequences.
Tell me about it. As we get older, of course, you're quite a bit younger than I am, but I suppose.
I don't think so. I'm 65.
Oh, then we're about the same age. Did you graduate in 72 from high school?
73.
Okay, so one half a year younger, probably. I was born on Valentine's Day, 54.
Okay, I just turned 65 on the 26th of June.
That was wishful thinking right there.
Yeah.
So, okay, so then from there you ended up kind of giving up on music, right?
Well, from there, the Marriott's thing, because of Larry, I wrote a letter to Fredfinn. He gave me Fred's contact information. In those days, it was a phone number and an address.
By the way, I have at least 5 people on this program already that are Fredfinn alumni from either San Diego or Vegas.
Bill Dendel, would he be one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Phil Andreen, trombone player. Bill Dendel's ex-wife, Carol Fayer.
Oh.
All those guys were Fredfinn. And then Lee Floyd.
Oh, okay.
Plink. Yep, he was one of my interviews already, too.
Oh, wow.
He's now on a boat off the shore of Miami somewhere, I think, but trying to find work as we all are.
Right. So I wrote a letter to Fred. He called me and said, hey, I appreciate the letter. If Larry referred you, that's great. I know you can play, but we have no need at this time. And I thought, well, that's cool. He called me. Then a week later, he called me back and said his trumpet player had diabetes and was having problems with his feet. And so he flew me down to Las Vegas and gave me a tape recording of his show, put me up in he had a pool house on this property, put me up in there and told me to memorize the show for the next day. And I listened to half the show and the batteries ran out.
No.
So the next day, he gets me and we go down to the Union Plaza and I meet the guys in the band and start doing this show. So I did that for about a week or two. I can't remember exactly, but it was pretty fun. And the next day he put me up at the Musicians Hotel, so I got to meet some of the musicians, Rudy Rodarte and Carl and all those guys.
Now, what year was that about?
That would have been the fall of '77.
Okay. Were the Paulson Brothers out there yet? Mike Paulson and Jim, they were.
The name's really familiar.
Yeah.
So at that point, I went back, finished out the season at Marriott, and then I had had another scholarship. So I went to UNLV, and same thing there. I went there, I enrolled, I didn't attend a day of class. I spent all my time at the practice rooms, which were open 24/7 at the time.
I thought you spent some of your time at the poker table too, if I remember right.
It was blackjack, but that was later. So over at the practice rooms, I ran into a guy who was the lead trumpet player at Caesar's Palace, and I asked him for lessons, and he says, "No lessons." He said, "Come and let's play duets." So I walked into his room. We played some Amsden's duets, and then a couple days later, at that time, the Union Hall would open at 10 p.m. and there'd be anybody that was a card could reserve the bandstand. So it'd be 10 to 2 a.m., then 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. And a lot of people would bring a book in there. It was also open during daytime hours, but it opened at night. And the 2 to 6 a.m. band was usually guys in the tuxedos after work, wanting to blow off some steam. And I knew Jackson
Sure.
Stock. And so
I met Jackson with the Hot Frogs.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so he invited me to sit in on his band, and that same trumpet player from Caesars was there, and I was playing fifth. And eventually I got a fourth part and a third part and a second part and a lead part. And after it was over, he just got up and split. And I thought, okay, I didn't make any impression at all. And then maybe 2-3 days later, the contractor from Caesar's Palace calls me and asks me if I want to do the Anne Margaret show. So that was the beginning of that.
Who was the trumpet player?
Stu Saddleoff.
Oh, okay.
He eventually went to, he was in Las Vegas quite a while, and then he was on the road with Paul Anka. Then I think he was doing some Hanna-Barbera stuff down in LA.
Yeah. Yeah, those guys, those studio cats, man.
Yeah.
Cool. So where does that take you from there? How long, you were in Vegas, you had a chance to play with like Tony Bennett and Sammy Davis and all those kind of guys, right?
Right. So nobody was really a house musician at that time, except for the production shows, but all the headliner rooms, you'd sign a 3-week or 2-week, you'd fill out 1099 for a 1 or 2 week or 3 week run. So from there
I'm sorry, I just thought of something, and you know how I am.
Yeah.
When was that big strike that happened in Vegas? I know because a lot of my friends that ended up working there went down there originally to Scab.
It was somewhere 82, 84-ish.
Oh, okay. We're not there yet then. Okay.
No, I was there. And that's when the union basically went bust during that strike. So, things changed quite a bit after that. And that's pretty much the time I quit for some 18 years.
Wow. You had a good run there, though, for a while, huh?
I had a good run. I played with quite a few of the main headliners of the time. The only one I didn't was Sinatra.
Well, I think he was probably out of the desert by then. Palm Springs, rather. He kind of semi-retired a couple times. But
you did?
No, Sinatra did.
Oh, yeah. He was, in fact, at the time, he started what they called the Sinatra rule, because at that time, the shows went on 7 days a week, 2 times a night. And Sinatra started taking one night off, and they started calling that the Sinatra rule. And that wasn't good for musicians, because when you played a run, you would play 6 nights, and then on the 7th night, they'd bring a relief band, in theory, the best players in town, because they'd come in and more or less sight read the show. And so with all the headliner rooms, there were two relief bands that were going around town playing the nights off everywhere, all over town. So there's a lot of musicians that worked at the time. After the strike, not so much.
And just in general in that town, I used to do traveling arts festivals and things that used to be down at the Frontiers and the older clubs, and there used to be just a lot of casual work too.
Oh, there was a lot of that.
I mean, a lot of it. I could go down there with an organized band and pick up, a lot of work aside from that. So
A lot of convention work, and they call it industrial gigs
right,
for the trade shows and whatnot.
make your lip feel that way too. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, cool. And so then you stopped, but I kind of alluded to your history gambling in Vegas, and you got very good at that.
Well, it wasn't poker. I learned how to count cards. And so it was a slow start, and I got going eventually. And then I wasn't playing trumpet at the time. Ended up getting barred all over Las Vegas. Went up to Reno, ended up getting barred there. Went down to Tahoe. The minute I stepped in the Harrah's, I got stopped.
Oh my!
And so that kind of put it.
Maybe now with the beard and the gray hair, you could go back and make it.
Yeah.
No, I just remember you telling me
agency
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, there used to be an agency that tracked cheaters and card counters.
I'm sure there still is.
I'm probably sure there is.
You know.
Yeah.
But although that town has changed so much as they're trying to bring in families and stuff in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
There's been a big shift there, as of course is kind of obvious to everybody but me. But so we did a lot of things together until you took that 18 years. I mean, I don't mean together, but I mean similar paths, doing Latin bands and show bands and a lot of that kind of stuff. And so when you moved finally out of Vegas, you went back to San Jose?
I moved, first I moved up to Reno doing the card counting, and then actually down to Laughlin for a little bit. And after that, I decided I needed to get a real job. So I called my brother in San Jose, who was a real estate appraiser. And he said, we don't need anybody here, but we need people in Sacramento because there was a big real estate boom going on then. So he trained me, and there was 4 members of the family, and 2 of us moved up to Sacramento. And that's how I became a business person, and I hadn't played at all at that time. That was part of my 18 years off.
Did you ever do any assessing for Alpha Century 21?
No, but I actually, a couple times I had some assignments in San Jose, and I would call Ed, and he'd give me access to all his computers and data.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was pretty nice of him.
Yeah, he was a generous guy, more than people thought.
He was for me.
Yeah.
He was a turning point in my career at the point in time. So, and he took a bad rap.
He did.
And I don't know how that happened, because he was always put his money where his mouth was. In more than one way, you know.
And a lot of times he did it behind the scenes. He would help festivals and jazz societies without any publicity whatsoever.
He almost subsidized every jazz festival and society on the West Coast for a few of those years we were with him.
Yeah. He definitely kept them alive.
Amazing stuff. A great loss.
Yeah.
I kept in contact with him even after I left.
Oh.
So just under the table, kept in contact with him. I know he wasn't happy about me leaving, but I just couldn't take it anymore. You know what I'm talking about. You know, getting called down to the lobby at 9 in the morning, and then Charlie wouldn't show up till 11. That part of it just threw me for a loop.
When I quit, people would ask me why, and I said because we were playing more waltzes and tangos than we were swing.
Yeah, he was doing his tea dance number, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was tilting too much that direction, and I thought that was time to leave.
Of course, after I left, he went almost exclusively to Fender bass, didn't he?
Yeah, he had a Fender bass player, Dwight Stone.
Yeah.
In San Diego, and then he had a guy that played an upright, but it was one of those electric uprights from Las Vegas.
Yeah. Oh, well, what can I say? Of course, I played that way anyway. I sounded like I was playing a Fender bass.
You absolutely did.
I was a young and foolish boy. So now what got you back into early jazz? Got you back into playing, actually?
So my son played trumpet in junior high, in elementary school. And at the time he was supposed to go into junior high, they started this year-round school. And so the track that the band was on was not the track that all his friends were on. So I let him quit playing. and I was selling his horn at a garage sale. And some people came up and asked me about it. I was a student Yamaha, and they started asking me about it. I gave them probably more details than they expected. And they said, well, you must play trumpet. And I said, well, yeah, I used to. And they said, well, don't sell this. Come join the Elk Grove Community Band.
Oh.
So that was a Saturday. And 2 nights later, I was playing in the Elk Grove Community Band. And I literally had nightmares about seeing notes and rests and whatever music and being frozen, not being able to know what they meant or did. And so I started taking some lessons with a guy from the Oakland Symphony, and I took some from Mike Vax because I wanted to start getting into the jazz.
By the way, I've interviewed Mike too.
Oh, great. He's still in Arizona, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He helped me an awful lot with the improv and trumpet
guy.
in general. Yes.
Nice. He's another guy who's taken a bad rap.
Yeah.
With trumpet players in particular.
He did a lot for jazz education too, an awful lot.
Oh, just a quick aside, I'm sorry. But he, when I did the Southern Comfort Dixieland Jazz Contest back in the 1980s, he was one of the judges.
Oh.
With the National Association of Jazz Educators.
Right.
So when I had interviewed him, that's where I actually met him, and he didn't remember. I said, you remember that tuba player with the Golden West Band in 1980? He goes, yeah. I go, that was me. He was what? So... But we've seen each other since then, but he didn't realize that point that that's who I was.
Right.
And he's a great guy.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so from there, one night at a break, there was a kid in the sax section, and he's noodling around on his clarinet, playing Clarinet Marmalade. And I said, how'd you know that stuff? And he goes, well, my dad and me, we're part of the Sacramento Traditional Jazz Society. We have meetings every third Sunday, and you can go there and jam. So I showed up there, and I forget the room they called the tailgate room for beginners and comebackers. So I was there, and then I found out that Stockton had a meeting on the first Sunday of the month, and Modesto had a meeting on the third Sunday of the month. So I started doing all those, and eventually a couple of gigs came my way, and then I ended up subbing at one of Ed's festivals in a band.
Was that Jazz City or?
It was Lauren Iverson's Tullyburg Jazz Band.
Oh, sure. Okay.
And then Charlie, and then Ed invited Tullyburg on a cruise. So I'm playing on the cruise with them. And one day, so obviously we're trading with 10th Avenue. One day, Charlie comes up to me and says, can you meet me on the, one of the restaurants tomorrow morning? So I met him, and he says, bring your calendar book. So I bring my book, and he says, are you available this day? I look, yeah. And he goes, okay. And then I write it down. Gives me another one.
Was Phil playing with us then? Phil Kirk? Or who do you?
I think it was Eric.
Holroyd.
Holroyd, yes, yeah. So I keep writing down these dates, and I look up, and Charlie's got a full-size sheet, single-spaced, and I say, you want me on all these? And he says, yeah. And I said, well, why don't you just give me the sheet? I'll do them all. And so that was the beginning of that. I think in the beginning I traded a little bit with Eric.
I was kind of surprised because from my vision, you came out of nowhere. I mean, I knew the guys in Tullyburg, but I didn't associate you with them.
I was actually just subbing then. I was playing in no bands at the time. So I subbed with him, and that's when just so happened that they went on that cruise, and I don't remember even who the trumpet player I subbed for was. And then I guess I caught Charlie's eye. In fact, Charlie thought I was Kent Mikasa from Don Neely's group.
Right.
Which many people have along the way.
Well, you all look the same.
Exactly.
Oh, that's awful to say. But yeah, I give Howard Miata crap about starting with Don, but that's good. That's actually kind of an interesting transition with those guys because they started playing down at Earthquake Magoons.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so Mayhack was playing, of course, with Turk.
Right.
And then Scott Anthony was doing the breaks between the two bands, and Neely's band would come in and do the second half.
Oh, wow.
And so they all kind of knew each other and crossbreeded through that. But
I had no idea that's where Don started.
Yeah.
Wow.
But ours, of course, that was just a bunch of college guys. Brilliant,
Yeah.
brilliant band because he could hire classical guys and it would be fine.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It was great having you on the band. Of course, because you hadn't played in so long, you almost came on as a new player in your mind, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything was new to me. Reading charts again, all that sort of stuff.
Because after I've seen all the stuff that you did in Vegas, it now doesn't make a whole lot of sense that you actually asked me for help. But
18 years off is a long time, and a lot of bad habits can form.
I remember the main thing I did when I gave you that one lesson. I think it was just one, maybe it was two, was talk about your posture and your standing stance and how that affected your breathing.
Right.
But other than that, you had great chops. So,
well, I was still quite a bit younger then.
I was just saying that's a very hard book.
It was a hard book
for everybody.
Yeah, and actually, when he started writing those waltzes and tangos and whatnot, those actually were harder because there was no breaks in there.
I tell people about that band that you got to be careful what you said around Ed.
Yeah.
For Al Weeb is a good example because he would talk about that he was in a psychedelic band in Canada, and all of a sudden the next day Ed would show up with like 6 psychedelic band tunes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just crazy. That's how we got Live and Let Die and a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
In that book, you got to do everything from Smoky Mokes to Carpenter's tunes.
Right. In fact, I remember. I don't know. Were you on the band when we did that? That medley of big band swing tunes that I guess the Elgar band did.
Yeah.
This is how brilliant I tell people Ed was. He and Deja were riding to the airport. It was on the radio, and she said, "Your band should do that." And he wrote out the chart from memory and condensed it from the Elgar band down to 6 pieces while they were in the airport. And then we had a rehearsal, and it was almost perfect. It was amazing.
Were you on the band when we did a series of PBS concerts for?
That was my second gig with the band. It's terrifying.
Because we did a whole set of trad and then a whole set of big band, and if I remember it, I forgot my book, and so I was doing all those intricate arrangements especially on the big band stuff, from memory more or less. But
yeah, some radio station by Cal State Hayward, or TV station. Yeah.
I've been looking online to see if they appear anywhere, and I haven't been able to find them yet. But
I'm telling you, I think it was my second or third gig with the band. I was terrified, and we had to wear tuxes. We had to go get measured for tuxes.
Right, I remember that. Crazy. Yeah. And so after that, you've kind of hit the Dixieland Trail.
Yeah, I ended up playing in. At one point, I counted that I was as active a member as you could be in probably 12 bands.
I never realized you did time with Igor.
Yeah, well, that was from the Fulton Street. At one point, he wanted to hire the Fulton Street front line. So it was myself, Paul Edgerton, and Bob Williams. And so we did some festivals with Igor. We went back east with him. And
I actually just saw him about 4 months ago. He came by the Friday gig that I do and sang a couple of tunes in Long Beach. He was in Hollywood auditioning for something again.
Really?
And then anytime he's in town, he tries to make it out and do some playing.
Well, I was under the impression he retired in the sunset somewhere in Arizona.
Nope.
Wow.
He's still going, and if he hears of something like because he did like 2 or 3 episodes of The Gong Show, and every time there's something that comes up in Hollywood that piques his interest, he'll get out and audition.
Wow. Has he done made any of those auditions?
I don't know.
Huh.
If he shows up at our place beforehand, then I don't know. And then if he shows up afterwards, I'm sure he doesn't talk about it. But
right.
But he still has that voice. He doesn't have that pitch, but he has that voice. That's great. And it's such a character.
Oh, yeah. He had his run in the sun, an unbelievable run.
Yeah. They were rock and roll stars.
Yeah.
On the festival circuit, as you know. Okay, you were on the Boondockers for a while.
Because Gary Church lived in Arizona, I became their local guy. And they had a twice a month gig. So that was also a really good training ground because there were no charts, and it was Ringwald and Mayhack, Del Fernandez on bass, Bill Gunter, of course, um, Paul Edgerton on clarinet. Bob Williams sometimes too. So it was a very good training ground for me.
Yeah, after we get off of this talk, you've got to look at my interview with Ringwald. It's hilarious. But of course, he's hilarious. But what can you do?
Oh yeah, yeah, interesting guy.
See who else here? Cats and Jammers.
Cats and Jammers. Gene. I don't know if you remember. There was a point where he discovered he had some sort of cancer in his legs.
This I didn't know.
Yeah, and some kind of marrow thing, I believe. And so I received a call from Donna 2 days before the Jubilee. And that year I had no band to play, and I left 10th Avenue, and whoever I was with didn't have a gig there. And Donna asked me to sub with Cats and Jammers for Gene, because his surgeon told him, if you walk the Jubilee, you'll have a broken leg by the end of the weekend. So I subbed with them, and Gene made his miraculous recovery, came back, played with the band a little while longer. And then I don't remember how much past that, maybe a couple of years later, I received a call on a Monday morning. It said, Cats and Jammers have a gig in Mazatlan. Gene can't go. Can you do it? That was Monday. And on Wednesday, I'm in the air flying to Mazatlan. And then it started.
You tend to do that with your groups, huh? Sort of.
Yeah. So that started a 10-year run with the band and 10 annual gigs down in Mazatlan, which was great fun. Absolutely.
I imagine you had a chance here to play with some of my very good friends and semi-legends and stuff. I just interviewed Bonnie Otto, by the way.
Who was that?
Bonnie.
Oh, Bonnie.
And of course, she's been through a few of these groups herself. And then
Absolutely.
You spent time with Fulton Street.
Yep, Fulton Street. And that's actually how the Igor thing came up, because Igor wanted the Fulton Street front line. So Fulton Street was a lot of fun. Actually, years ago, when we were at 10th Avenue, people would ask me about, they didn't really know me that much. Where do you want to go? What would you like to be? And I always said, I'd like to be a trumpet player in Fulton Street, because I like their blend of swing and Dixie. And so one day at an Ed Fest, I ended up subbing for Dean, and it was 7 sets straight between 10th Avenue, back and forth.
I don't know if you were around when I did that with the Frogs. There's a time where I was playing cornet with the Frogs when Mike Silverman was having his health problems. I was playing tuba with 10th Avenue and going back to back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not fun. You learn how not to eat a whole lot of Gatorade in one day. But anyway.
Yeah. A cup of ice becomes your best friend, though.
Oh man, and aspirin. Aspirin helps the swelling go down. And so now you're a double-billed euphonium player with the.
About I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I started subbing for Bob Romans in Cell Block 7. And then their longtime cornet player, Fred, retired and eventually passed. And so I've been with that band. That's gone through a lot of transitions. Bob Stover's now the drummer. Tom Downs still plays too, but I think they go way back. Mayhack's in there. He's arranged almost all the charts of probably in the last 3 years. Almost every new chart came from Mayhack.
Yeah, I made the mistake of getting on Bob Ringwald's joke list, so I get my constant email updates. So it's not a mistake, Bob. I love your jokes, and I know you're going to watch this. But yeah, those people. Jim Mayhack. Of course, he was in the band I put together called the First Federal Jazz Band.
Oh.
Back in the day, which was another all-star band type of thing. It was Bill Dendle and Jim Mayhack, and Bob Ringwald sat in on a set of that. Rusty Stiers.
Wow.
George Probert was the reed player. And so that was craziness having all those guys together.
Was that when, did Mayhack live in Southern California?
No. What happened was we were all at a festival, and we were talking at one of musicians' lounges, and they were all talking about how they hated having to put up with sidemen. And they were kind of bemoaning the fact that they have to be leaders all the time now. And I was at the table. I said, tell you what I'm going to do. So I'm going to put a band together. You guys can all be my sidemen. I'll lead the band for a while. And they said, great, that sounds great. It was a big mistake on my part because they all just became sidemen and did the same things they were all complaining about. So it's a lot of fun. I mean, Probert and Dendel was playing banjo and Mayhack on trombone. I actually didn't have a designated piano player at the time. George and Rusty, and I had two different drummers that went through that band. But so we played Seaside Organ, and I didn't know Bob Ringwald at the time. He doesn't remember the story quite the way I do. But I was on stage, and Jim and Rusty and Bill came up and said, Dan, we have a piano player who wants to sit in. I didn't know Bob from Adam. And I looked down off the stage, and here's the guy with a cane, with a red tip on the end of it. I said, are you guys putting me on? What are you talking? He said, it'll be fine. Let's let him come up on stage and play. I had no idea. So that's how I met Bob.
Oh. I don't know. What is your program, PG or?
Oh, well, no, I try not to make it too spicy, but I can't tell the joke that Bob tells me if that's what you're asking.
Well, I've got a Bob Ringwald story.
Go ahead.
The time that I was playing in 10th Avenue and subbing for Dean with Fulton Street, I knew it when we started. I was taking it easy because it was a long day ahead of me, 7 straight sets. And Ed's band finished playing a set, and I had to run across the hall to where Fulton Street was setting up. And we did, I think it was Cold Cart Blues, Ed's arrangement. And there was some held notes, trumpet supposed to do some plunger stuff, high plunger stuff. So I did that. I go running across the hall, Ringwald's setting up. There's 3 ladies in the front row. His piano's like this. There's 3 ladies in the front row right by him. And he goes, where's Sakoi? And I said, I'm right here, Bob. And he goes, you've been sandbagging. I go, well, I have a long day. And he goes, I want to hear some of those fuck me blues. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, what you did at the end of 10th Avenue set. And I go, what? And he goes, I want to hear some of those fuck me blues. 3 ladies are right here. Obviously, he can't see them. I did it again, and he's yelling it out. I never told him about that till about 2 years later. And he loves that story. I barely knew him at the time.
I wouldn't be so sure that he didn't know that we were there. Because I've walked up to him across a room, and he's known who I was before I said hello.
Yeah, very sensitive to those things.
Oh, I would, I'd be at a musician's lounge filled with people talking, and I'd walk up and he'd go, "Hi, Dan."
Yeah.
What? It's amazing. By the way, I do, if I decide I don't want to use that story or use that one word in this story, I can always go back and edit.
Sure.
But I probably won't edit that. It's too funny. No, I was talking about, Red Lair?
No.
He's the tuba player with a Riverboat. Used to be Gene Cottrell's band out of St. Louis.
Oh, okay.
And he used to tell me the filthiest jokes right before I got on stage. Both he and Ray Templin, if you know Ray Templin, from Arizona, I would be getting ready to go on, and he'd come up, "Hey Dan, listen to this," and I'd have to play, and I would be in tears laughing. But anyway, Bob tends to do that kind of thing too a lot.
Oh yeah.
Keep things exciting here. So, have you been practicing in the last 3 months here?
Yep, and in fact, thanks to the internet and YouTube, there's tons of backing tracks up there. I have Band in a Box, but I just find it more fun just to pick a backing track and go play along with it.
Did you know that Al Weeb, you remember Al, of course?
Sure.
That his son is one of the guys who created Band in a Box.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I had no idea.
A little bit of trivia. It's not that important, but I thought it was curious nevertheless.
That was a great learning tool for me because when I joined the Sacramento Traditional Jazz Society, if you didn't have a gold card, you were stuck playing in the tailgate room, and they had a list of I think 200 or 300 tunes that you had to know to earn your gold card.
Oh wow!
And they would have auditions 3 times a year, and they would just pick 3 tunes out of random from a jar or something.
I didn't realize they were so segmented.
Yeah, so I got Band in a Box, and I started putting in chord changes to all the tunes on their list, and I'd start learning a few a week, and that was a really great learning tool for me.
Oh yeah, it beats the heck out of Jamie Abersol. He never did the Dixieland album, I don't think. But
He actually did one.
oh, did he?
Yeah, but out of what, 140?
That's right. Right. You can only go so too far playing 2 hours of 251s personally, but
Yeah.
you know, wow, craziness, man.
Yeah.
It's good. It's so good to see you.
Good to see you too.
You know, we spent some pretty hard time together there for a while
And
at the Wyndham in San Jose.
yeah, and as I told you when you called me last week, we were just down at Knott's Berry Farm at the end of June and driving around the backside, and I said, "Oh, my old buddy Dan from 10th Avenue said he lived back here somewhere back here by the stables, didn't you?"
Yeah, I used to.
Yeah, and it's funny. Then a few days later, you and I are talking.
Well, it's the ethos, man. You know, it's just
Yeah.
it's the cosmic vibes, baby. Oh, well, I think about you often, and the people that I had to interrupt with my playing at 10th Avenue. You know, Eric's another interesting guy. You had a chance to meet him, I imagine. Ericholroyd?
Yes, I did. Mm-hmm.
Someday we got to go out and get a beer and tell the stories I can't tell over the internet all the time.
Exactly.
And of course.
Because if I recall, you were rooming with Eric before I got there.
Yeah.
Before I started rooming with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he used to come. Well, Ed would fly him out from Australia for Pete's
I know.
sake.
It was crazy.
And so he would come and get a hotel over by where I lived sometimes. Then we would do the commutes up to San Jose together, and he was very interesting, man. In fact, I'm the one who turned him on to Schilke mouthpieces, and I forgot what he was playing on when I met him, but I eventually got him, I think, on a A4A, and he just loved it, and tells all of his friends in Australia that I'm this brass expert that, worked tirelessly with him to find the correct mouthpiece. It's kind of funny. What do you play on right now?
I use a Curry. It's a 3C rim, but it's one of the deep mouthpiece. Curry TC or TF, so that TF's like flugelhorn depth.
I just found Curry's maybe 10 years ago when I was doing drum corps. And the guys from, one of the guys from the Eastern Drum Corps said, "Oh, we use Curry's for our mellophones." I went, "Really? Let's check it out," So they're renowned. I have never I still use my Marcinkiewicz that I had for trumpet that is, and I still use that for tuba also.
Right.
Used to play really, really shallow, almost a Maynard shallow mouthpiece.
Wow.
And that's just because I had a big gap when I was playing trumpet here. And I could do that without interrupting the buzz too much.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, it's all technical trumpet geeking. And what horn are you on now?
Mostly I play an Adam A6.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with the brand. I mean, I know the brand. I just have never played them.
Oh, great quality horns. And actually, this one is a copy of Dante Winslow's Constellation.
Oh, so it's a mariachi horn.
It's a little more refinement than that and a lot better valves. Adam's valves are incredible. You could go a month without oiling them, and they're still great.
But it's that same basic indestructible design like the Constellation was?
It's lighter.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah.
Because, Zig's mariachi horn, the Cancel mariachi was a copy of the Constellation also.
I tried those down at NAMM one year, a few years back. Yeah. And I actually owned a Constellation for a while. I mean, I've gone through horns.
Yeah. Oh, me too.
Yeah.
Not so much on tubas. You can't afford to do that with tubas.
Yeah. No, in fact, yesterday or day before, I took my Adams into the shop for sonic cleaning. So now it's just the olds.
Oh, yeah. Well, because I had such access, I went through almost all the olds lines and all the Council lines just because they're in Anaheim.
Mm-hmm.
So I could go play, whatever I wanted to try out and check out and stuff. But I had one time had an Eterna, because Doc had one, so I had to have one.
Yeah. That's one I never had, but I actually had an Elhert LeBlanc.
Oh, I remember those with medallion.
Yeah, with the medallion. I had one of those. I bought a Constellation at one point. eBay's dangerous. I've gone through probably 5 or 6 ambassadors because I've taken the best parts of them. And I have one that's a really pretty decent working horn. Looks ugly as hell.
A cornet or trumpet?
It's a trumpet.
Okay.
And you could ward off intruders with it, home invaders with that horn. But
there are such good student horns because of that.
Yeah.
I mean, they play wonderful, and just those valves just don't. When I was in elementary school, I nicked my second valve slide on my Olds Ambassador, and so it stuck. So I just took the bottom valve cap off the second valve, and I pushed it up with my thumb almost all the way through junior high because I was afraid to tell my dad what I did. But in general, those things are just, you can pound nails with them.
Yeah.
You know? Wonderful stuff. Well, Bob, it's been so great to talk to you. Anyway, sir, I'm going to call it here, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Please, let's try and stay in touch.
Absolutely.
And if the earth permits, maybe we'll get a chance to get on stage again together.
That would be fun.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Take care.
All right, Dan. See you
next
later.
time you're in Anaheim, call.
I will do that.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Trad Jazz Today. Dan shows new interviews every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Make sure to check out the archive of past shows, and please give us a thumbs up when you subscribe to the channel. Bye.